Solo recovery is a trap. It is a trap that we fall into as men because we feel such shame, guilt, and fear around this topic. Hello, hello, hello. Matt Sinkovitz and Yeadon Smith here, back on the Porn to Purpose podcast.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
We're coming to you from our respective studios in Pennsylvania and South Carolina, talking about every man's favorite topic.
We know
porn.
what it is. Yes.
You know what it is. You know what time it is. It's porn recovery time. Make sure you add the recovery in that phrase. Porn recovery time. There we go. Now we're going live everywhere. So today, fellas, listeners, podcast land, we got a dark truth that we're going to hit. The dark truth of solo recovery.
Yes.
The dark truth of solo recovery. Like, for most of us, porn is a solo addiction.
Yeah.
Right? We're addicted to it. We got 24/7 access to it in our pocket with our phone.
Right.
We're by ourselves, in our room by ourselves, in the bathroom by ourselves. Like, this addiction, generally speaking, I'm not saying 100% of it, but let's be honest. We hide it. It's a secret. We got to cover our tracks. We talked about it on the podcast where it's like, hey, if you don't think you have a porn problem, would you be willing to just hand your 9-year-old daughter your phone with your browser history?
Right.
Like, now I would. 5 years ago, no, I would not.
Yeah.
So we want to touch on solo recovery because we get stuck in this by ourselves. We feel isolated. We talk about on the podcast all the time that the opposite of addiction is not sobriety, it's connection.
Yeah.
And yet, even though we know that this is a connection problem at some level, we try and quit porn on our own. We think, well, I got myself into this mess. I'm going to get myself out of this mess. It's too embarrassing. It's too shameful. It's there's too much of a threat to bring this up into a conversation, right? You're not at your Thursday morning Bible study at McDonald's with your men's group and it's like, hey guys, by the way, I mean, maybe you do. I tried that with accountability groups when I was in full-time youth ministry, and the conversations were like, well, do better next week. And also the conversations are also very soft, right? We don't actually say, hey, I masturbated to Pornhub again. It's just like, oh, I had a moral failing. I slipped. We soft pedal it so hard when we're trying to bring this up in conversation instead of being able to talk about it frankly, openly, transparently, and honestly. So here's some of the things that happened for me when I was trying to recover from porn. I wasn't trying to recover from porn. That wasn't the language I used. I was just like, I got to quit. I got to stop using porn. And when I was on my own, I would do the normal stuff, right? I would put restrictions on the apps. I would put in the filter software. I would put in the accountability software. I set my wife up to get the emails from Covenant Eyes so she could see how good I was doing. And when I wasn't doing good, I had worked around the apps so she didn't know I wasn't doing good.
Right.
Made all the promises to myself, to the people that I loved when I got caught. And I was still stuck. The reason is because solo recovery is a trap. It is a trap that we fall into as men because we feel such shame, guilt, and fear around this topic.
Right.
And the story in our head is, oh my gosh. Like, I remember the story in my head. The first time I found mouse pointers online and downloaded them from my computer when I was 15, and one of them was a GIF of a woman's top falling off. And then I heard my dad coming up the stairs, and I was like, oh, I can't let him know.
Right.
He's going to think I'm a pervert, a monster, a demon possessed. I'm gonna ruin my relationship with my dad. So we try and do this in private, in solo, because we're trying to protect relationships. I understand. I was trapped in that myself.
Yep.
But here's the hard truth about solo recovery. You were not meant to fight this battle alone. The solo battle is doomed to failure, man. It's just prolonging the isolation and the pain and the misery. So now that we've had that mic drop intro, here's what we believe as men. Here's what I used to believe as a man when I was stuck in the grip of porn consumption.
Right.
I'll figure it out myself, right? I'll read another book. I'll listen to a podcast. I'll read more stories about the horrors of the porn industry. I will try and make it feel so devastatingly awful that will prop up my willpower, and I'll be able to just avoid it, stay away from it. That was one lie that I told myself. Another lie that I told myself was no one needs to know, right? Nobody needs to know this. I'll figure this out one way or the other. Spoiler alert, I didn't figure it out on my own. Another thing I thought, I just need more discipline. I need to read my Bible more. I need to pray more. I need to ask God for more grace, more strength. I need to be more patient. I need to do all of these things that require discipline, right? I'm just not disciplined enough to beat this. And this is coming from a guy who had the discipline to train for an Ironman. So in my life, I had discipline. I was just bullshitting myself. Telling myself, well, I just need to be more disciplined. It's like, no, I had discipline. This was an issue that was deeper than that. Right. And then the biggest thing that I believed, and if you don't raise your hand with me, I'm going to call you out on it. Once I get some clean time, then I'll reach out.
Right.
Let me get to 30 days sober, then I'll reach out to somebody. Then I'll see who I can bring in to support me on this journey. Well, get to 30 days, and then the brain's like, hey, our diet from porn is over. We've been fasting from porn long enough. It's time for porn breakfast. Time to break that fast. And I would fall right back into the grip. Because here's what happens, man. It's like shame thrives in silence. It thrives in the darkness. The patterns that are in our lives, they go unchallenged because we don't have anybody that is a safe enough space to talk with us about and say, I just want to challenge you on that thought, on what happened there. Is that really what's going on? We don't have an external feedback. We don't have external reflection. There's nobody we can talk to when we're trying to do this by ourselves. There's nobody we can talk to say, hey, here's what I'm going through. How did you navigate this? If they have sobriety, right? I couldn't talk with my dad about this when I was a teenager because in my head, it's like, he's perfect.
Right.
He doesn't struggle with lust. He doesn't struggle with porn. And we know that progress is fragile.
Yeah.
Progress is fragile, right? It takes intentionality and focus, and it does take dedication and discipline.
Yeah.
But that sort of, I'm doing this on my own, it's based on fear. It's not based on freedom.
Yep. So that's beautiful, Yeadon. And you know, this episode, I love the topic of like the dark truth of solo recovery. And like there's a I would say there's a misnomer, right, to the idea of solo recovery. Yeah. But also I think what we've identified here in the community, what I've identified myself is like the shame and addiction actually thrives in the darkness. So there is a real like dark aspect to this. Yeah. And what I'd love to touch on here a little bit is like, why do we choose to stay in isolation, and what's actually the trap of that?
Yes. Yeah.
Right.
Why do we do that to ourselves, Matt?
The truth of it is that the isolation actually feels safer, right? To not be exposed,
Yes.
to not be vulnerable, right? To not allow people to see the dark aspects of ourselves, or the parts of ourselves that we carry shame around, right? But the truth is that only really serves to keep us stuck, right? There's a fear of being exposed. There's a fear of judgment, rejection, embarrassment. There's a lot of pride on the line, right? And the story that I always told myself is I'm the only one that's struggling this bad, right? I'm the only one that's this
Yes.
much of a pervert or weirdo, right? So these stories, they keep us stuck and they keep us in
You and me
isolation.
were the only ones. You and me were the
Right,
only ones.
right,
There's nobody else that's this bad. Huh.
right, right. So it feels safe, but actually keeps us stuck. And what actually happens as a result of that is we continue to repeat the same patterns over and over again. We justify relapse. We don't experience any real-time consequences, right? In terms of as it relates to maybe accountability relationships in our lives. Now, I say there is always an inherent consequence just because of maybe what we're doing to ourselves, right? There's an immediate consequence or karma there, but we don't get encouragement from the people around us. We don't get the support, and we certainly don't get that accountability. We certainly don't get that accountability. And the idea is that silence, right, or solitude or isolation is actually where the shame grows, and
Yes.
secrecy is actually where the addiction thrives.
Oh man. We can just end the podcast episode right there.
That's it.
Secrecy is where the addiction thrives.
That's it.
You know, that you think you're the only one struggling this bad. That point you made, like, man, that was me. I remember one time in my life, I was on a men's retreat, and I was scheduled to. I was the youth minister at the church, and it was a men's retreat that we went. I was talking about something, and for some reason, I got started talking about porn.
Mm,
And I even said I'm a porn addict in the talk. Now, my
mm,
boss at the time, he said, "Yeadon, maybe don't say porn addict." He
right.
told me after the fact, but that was the truth, honestly.
Right.
But I found out in that mentor tree, like, every man there resonated with what I was saying.
Yeah.
And I was one of the youngest guys there. Guys who are, then they're I'm 44 now. They were my age 20 years ago.
Right.
And I got nothing but respect. And if
Right.
only I had known to lean in to a community that could have been safe for me, I could have avoided 20 years of this addiction. But the
Yep.
isolation felt safer.
Yep.
So here's what happens when we come out of the darkness and into the light. What happens with community, it changes the game. It changes everything. Because what happens when you are seen for who you really are in a space where they're not going to judge you,
Right.
where you're not a pervert, where you're not a monster. You're just a man going through life doing the best that he can. Because I know, brother, I was doing the best that I could.
Yep.
I really was. Now, was it good enough? Unfortunately, no, it wasn't good enough. But I look back, I don't have any shame, really, because I look back, it's like I honestly was doing the best that I knew how to do.
Yep.
One thing I've learned is when we know better, we do better. Now that I know better, I'm doing better. When we bring this into the light, when we're seen in a safe space, we bring our shame into the light. We hear, "You're not alone. I'm right there with you, man. I've been there. I was there last week. I was there today." Our experience gets normalized because we're in a safe place. We get called to the next level by men who are there, who have been there. I see this all the time in the Liberation Boot Camp. Men who are just getting started, who are a few months in. I get to share what it's like having been in recovery now for over 2 years. The frustrations that I felt when I was 6 months in, I get to share I get to validate other men's experiences inside of the boot camp. When I'm talking with Matt, when I'm talking with Rich, Max, Alec, Aaron, whoever it is, we get to share tactics and strategies that we don't have by ourselves. We get the experience of the community, men who have been there, done that, have the emotional scars to prove it.
Yep.
A real brotherhood. Now, here's some things to look for in a real brotherhood. A real brotherhood is not going to shame you.
Right.
There's no shame. On the other hand, it doesn't baby you.
Right.
Like, hey man, you had a track, you reset your tracker, you slipped up, you were on the websites this past weekend. It's like, okay, there's no shame, but let's unpack this. What was actually going on? I want to help you troubleshoot it to figure out what was really going on that made you turn to porn, even though I know you didn't want to. We get to unpack and call men forward, and at the same time hold space for the darkness. It's like, man, I'm upset with my wife. I'm upset with my kids. I think I'm going to get fired with the next round of layoffs. And, I slipped up. I went on Pornhub over the weekend, lost my sober streak. I lost my 30-day streak. It's like, on the one hand, bro, I understand that. That's an insane amount of pressure and stress and emotional pain. And porn is the coping mechanism you've been using for decades. And I know you didn't want to. I can hold space for that darkness and not judge you. You need a brotherhood that can hold that space without judgment or shame. And then says, okay, what's the next step? What lesson can we learn from this slip? If you survive this round of layoffs, how can you build your framework so when the next round of layoffs happens, that's not adding to the emotional pain? You're handling that in a healthy way.
Yep.
What are some ways you can build more patience with your kids? What are some ways you can not be stressed out with your spouse? You don't need someone to fix you. You don't need someone to fix you, man. You need someone who won't flinch when you speak your truth.
That's it, man.
Someone who will not flinch when you say what's really going on.
Yep. Yep.
So those are some of the biggest reasons why community changes the game.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So let's dig in a little bit here on, like, maybe this message is speaking to you today, brother, and you've been going it alone for a while, or maybe you're a member of a community at one point and you left and you've been kind of lone wolfing it again. What are some steps that you can begin to take to begin to kind of address this isolation and this lone wolf path? Number one, very simply, like one of the first steps in like addiction recovery is like admit you got a problem. Get honest about where you're at and the fact that you are isolated. If nothing else, begin doing some self-work. Begin to do some journaling. Begin to process it. Maybe find a therapist, right? Mm-hmm. Admit the cost, right, to yourself of staying solo, right?
Yeah.
One of the first things that I always love to offer to brothers joining the community is let one person outside of our community that's like an actual person in your life know that you've begun the recovery journey, right? Or that you've been struggling. Like, who's the safest person in your life? Is it a family member? Is it a pastor or a spiritual advisor? Is it like a friend that you hold dear? Confess to one other person and begin to bring that which has been residing in the darkness into the light, right? Yeah. And give yourself permission to not do that perfectly. I think better is done is better than perfect, I think is what they say, right?
Yes. Yeah.
I think just a willingness to step in, to be vulnerable, allow for it to be messy and honest, and just be seen. And I always find just being seen is some of the best therapy and is some of the best medicine, right? Because now you're not alone anymore, and you can share this burden, you can share this weight. And finally, maybe you want to take the next step, right? Maybe you've admitted that, hey, I've been doing this alone. I recognize I've got a problem. You've begun to maybe have some conversation in your life, or you've had that conversation with that next person. Next step is going to be to really take a look at joining a formal community, a community of men who are doing this work, who have a proven path figured out, who have the weekly check-ins, the accountability, the visibility, the daily action, right? Because recovery accelerates when we do it together.
Yes.
And to our brother Yeadon's famous line, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together.
You can get to 30 days on your own.
Yeah.
Maybe. Let's be honest. Maybe I can.
Yep.
But to get 300 days, to get 3,000 days, bro, there's not a chance I could do that by myself. Not a snowball's chance in Miami in August.
Yep.
Right? As we wrap, Matt, I think one of the things that we think is that isolation feels noble.
Yeah.
It's like, this is a private battle. I'm a private person. I'm going to fight it myself. I don't want to burden anybody else with this. I don't want to dump my problems on anybody else. I'm going to figure this out. It looks strong, but you're just setting yourself up for failure.
Yep.
Unfortunately, that's the truth. Solo recovery at all. Solo recovery is not really recovery at all. It's just staying stuck in that same loop.
Yep.
And man, if there's like what are they called? Sexaholics and SA, Sexaholic Anonymous.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
If there's like a recovery group around sexual behavior locally for you, go check it out.
Yep.
If there's a program, right? I think Celebrate Recovery is a program that happens in church. If there's a program like that you can plug into, go check it out.
Yep.
See if it's a fit.
Yep.
See if that is the safe space. And Matt, tell them about what we have. If they can't find anything locally, how can they plug in virtually?
Yeah, maybe you find somewhere local, like I did at one point in my recovery, and you get in person. Maybe you find an online group, or maybe you resonate with the message here that Yeadon and I share with us today, or share with you today, or maybe you're a regular listener of the Pørn to Purpose podcast, and you've been hearing about the Liberation Boot Camp, and you'd like to hear more about what we're doing inside of our community. You're looking to learn from men like Yeadon who have gone through the program and are the proof of the pudding, if you will. If so, we want to invite you to come check us out inside the Pørn to Purpose community, where we have a beautiful brotherhood of men from around the United States doing this work together. Some of the best men that I know, some of the best men in my lives who are getting together on a regular basis. We're bringing the accountability, we're bringing the tools, we're bringing the visibility, we're bringing the conversations, and we're working to create real change in our lives, and we're doing it.
Yeah, man. If you're ready to be done suffering in silence, plug in somewhere. If you want to connect with us, check us out, porntopurpose.com. Book a call with us. Matt and my schedule is right there. You can book a call with us. We can have a totally confidential call and talk about where you are, where you want to go, to see if the Liberation Boot Camp might be able to help with your goals of having freedom, because that's what we want.
Amen.
We want freedom for men in their lives to become the best version of themselves. This is where shame dies and men rise.
That's it.
Keep pushing, brother. You're not alone. You're not a monster. You don't have a porn problem. You have a pain problem, and porn is the pill that you've been taking.
Yep. That's it.
Matt, as always, pleasure podcasting with you, talking about this recovery journey.
Yes.
It reinforces my own motivation.
Indeed.
To the recovery.
Indeed, brother.
And on that note, we'll see you men on the next episode.
Thank you, brothers. Peace, power.
Peace and power.
Men.
Noble men.
Boom.